couple of months ago, I heard an announcement that there was a Nigerian king that had been appointed or crowned or was being honored in East London. And there was a bit of like a kerfuffle around that, and kind of paid it a little bit of attention, and I thought, flip, that's weird. And then this protest has kind of built, this movement has built.
Immigrants have replaced South Africans as modern-day slaves. Those were the explosive words of March and March leader Jacinta Nobeze Zuma, and the statement has sparked intense debate across South Africa. But what did she actually mean? Is this simply political rhetoric, or is it a reflection of what many South Africans believe about unemployment, low wages, and the country's growing dependence on immigrant labour? In this video, we'll break down Jacinta Nobeze Zuma's full statement, examine the context behind it, explore the reactions from both supporters and critics, and separate emotion from the facts. Stay with me until the end, because this is one of the most controversial conversations happening in South Africa today.
Immigrants have replaced South Africans as the modern-day slaves. Whether they want to agree with that or not is the reality. Because from what you're saying, with the issue of
I would push back on that idea.
No, you can.
Yeah.
But if that was a bunch of white people marching the streets the other day, today the government would have come up with a comprehensive plan on immigration.
What did day one look like? Where did this movement find its momentum?
The target is government for allowing the issue of illegal immigrants to thrive in the country. The target is government for not enforcing their own laws.
You're chasing immigrants away.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No. That's not true.
Are you Israeli funded?
Yeah.
You say definitely not. Is there nothing like that behind the strings? Are you saying we're completely grassroots, completely organic? There is nobody behind us playing puppet master and pulling the strings here?
Like it.
And if you guys are weak, if you guys have been castrated and cut off at the knees by apathy and addiction, you guys will never be effective.
Strong men standing united on Christian values and ready to rebuild this nation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't been living under a rock, you're probably aware of the March and March protests that have been going down across the country over the last couple of months, from your major city centres like Johannesburg all the way down to your smallest little surf villages like St. Francis Bay. Local South Africans are starting to raise their voices and tell a story that has so far gone unheard. I'm here with Jacinta, who is the face of the latest protests, to hear about her, where she's come from, and what the marches have been like, what her plans are for the future. Jacinta, thanks for being here.
Thank you for the invite.
I want to start off talking about you. I feel like people don't know enough about who you are and where you've come from. So tell me about, elevator pitch, where are you from? What has been foundational to your character being formed?
I'm from KZN. I was born in Eshowe. Moved to KwaMashu because my family relocated there, but we still have a home Eshowe. Grew up with grandparents because my mom and dad separated because there was political war and the whole apartheid thing. So my dad ran away, grandpa stayed, and the family separated like that. So I grew up with my mom's side of the family, and they raised me. My grandparents played a very big role in shaping who I am. My grandmother was a Roman Catholic, so we went to church even if it was snowing, even though it doesn't snow in South Africa. It's just like a joke. But like, I'm just trying to paint it, like how church was a big deal at home. They really believed in education, so everything was about church, education, church. That's why I think almost everyone at home went to school, got to university level, and then from there went to Johannesburg, lived there throughout high school and university. I came back to KZN, where I started my journey on radio, on UKZN radio. Okay. Because I loved radio so much.
Yeah, and you've done well there.
A lot, so I went to UKZN radio. The radio bug got me, started doing like community radio. I dropped out of university for a while. And as I was growing in the radio space, but I went back to school. I was like, I have to get a degree somehow. So while I was getting an education, I was working, got my degree as well, and that's how I've been. I've been involved in a lot of community activism. I've done a lot of things in my community. And I've used my radio platform to help a lot of people, because I think that's what my core beliefs have been about. It's about me being happy when other people are happy, and when I bring about change in my community. So yeah, I think that's it really. Then I got married, and now I'm married with my husband, and that's it.
Amazing. I think it's just cool to have a little bit of insight into you and who you are as a person. We hear so much about the movement that you've built, but I think very few people actually have got any insight into who you are.
Yeah.
And I think that's very cool too. So let's talk about these march and march protests that have come up and that you've been a big part of driving. A couple of months ago, I heard an announcement that there was a Nigerian king that had been appointed or crowned or was being honored in East London. And there was a bit of like a kerfuffle around that, and kind of paid it a little bit of attention, and I thought, flip, that's weird. And then this protest has kind of built, this movement has built over the last couple of months, popping up,
Yeah.
How did it start? What did day one look like? Where did this movement find its momentum, and what happened?
Yeah, I think it's been a long time coming, if I can tell you. I've been, like I said, on radio for a while. I've had a large following, even on social media. So I used to use my social media for a lot of things. I mean, at once upon a time, I pulled off like a wedding for a couple that didn't have money, just using like radio and social media. So I've been using social media for a lot of things to bring about change in the community, etc. And then this one time, like this thing was consistently bothering me. I was getting a lot of complaints from people about the issue of foreigners, especially Nigerians, etc., etc. But I just felt like it was a normal thing, to get normal complaints like I did on radio. But then it was on TV, and there was Sizothola every Sunday. I don't know if you know what Sizothola is. It's actually a TV show that shows drug busts.
Okay.
Every Sunday.
Yeah?
Yeah, so every Sunday without fail, there's Nigerians on TV being busted with drugs, etc., etc. And I used to complain about this. It's like my favorite show on TV. But I think the turning point of it all was when I realized that this is just more than just like your normal complaints, because I started having like these wild dreams of children being put in containers and taken out of the country. I used to have those dreams a lot, and I'd tell my husband, like, no, probably because you just think about this a lot, or pray about it or whatever. Then I remember the last voice that I heard was like, if you don't do anything about this, next time it'll be your child in that container. And I think that day changed my life completely. Because I knew this means that I have to do something about it.
Interesting.
But funny enough, around that time, when I was having those dreams, a lot of children are going missing, like weekly. Like sometimes even not even weekly, like 3 or 4 children a day. People, please help me find my child. I've lost my, etc., etc. And then around that same time, then the killings of the children from the food started happening. The Spada shop.
Yeah, poison food.
Yes. Oh, I lost it when that was happening. I was writing about it every day. Like, the government needs to take this seriously. We were writing to the government, why are you not taking this seriously? Like, children are dying. And remember, these snacks are not coming from local production. They're coming from all those illicit goods that are coming in to our country, unmonitored, etc. So I waited for the president to just say something like, profound, like something presidential.
This is a problem. We should do
20-something children are dying. Like, do something about it. I was hoping he's going to say, you know what, shutting down Spada shops until all the food is regulated. There's only going to be, suppliers that are, approved by government, something. The man goes on TV and says, let's register them. That's it.
Okay.
And we'll go and research into what. That was the last time he ever spoke about that or those children ever again.
And so, what was day one then for you?
That was it. It was a combination of that, and then I went on social media and I'm like, guys, I'm losing it with this man, And then everyone is like, guys, let's do something about it. We're always keyboard warriors. Come on, Jacinta, we trust you to do something, blah, blah, blah. Everyone on Facebook was like putting their trust in me to do something about this.
Okay.
Because we're all outraged. We're sitting there on Sundays, always outraged. Always sitting there, always outraged. Communities are complaining, outrage, but it's always on social media. So then I said, okay, guys, you know what? It's January now. I think I remember very well. I think it was in January. let's do something now. There's March. Let's march in March. And that's when we started March and March. But started as March in March.
I hear you.
Then after our first March in March, now March is over, right?
Yeah.
Then everyone is like, okay, what's next? And then I'm sitting there like,
March
okay,
and April.
what is next? I was like, do we say March in April, March in June? I sat there like, gosh, what are we going to do? And then it just hit me like, okay, you don't have to change the march, because that's the important thing about it. You know, freedom was attained through marching.
Yes.
March must remain.
Okay.
So I said, okay, let's say march and march. Let's
Okay.
change the in to and.
Yes.
And then continue to march and march, which is a continuation.
And I've heard the stories. Being on the ground, speaking to protesters
Yeah.
myself, I've
Yeah.
heard the mother who has lost her daughter to dirty drugs from a Nigerian gang.
Prostitution.
I've heard about the young man who has a matric or a degree and can't find work, and he goes home to his family and cannot provide, and he sees the Malawian or the Zimbabwean or the Mozambican or whoever it is with work, and he says, you know, this isn't right. And I see or at least I hear of the slumlord syndicates that are hijacking buildings or RDP houses. I know that the majority of Zamazamas are
Absolutely.
undocumented illegals.
Absolutely.
So I see that. What do you think, if you had to summarize the pain points of the movement, what do you think are like the big...
Sure, I
line
think the
items?
most painful part of them all is a government that doesn't listen to you. I think that's the biggest problem
Sure.
here, because if the government listened to the people, we wouldn't be here.
You wouldn't have
You know
to
what I
be.
mean? We wouldn't have to be, because the government
Yeah.
would have solutions, like
Yeah.
I'm telling you now.
Yeah.
It started with the president ignoring the deaths of South African children.
Yes.
But you see what the painful part is that if those were foreigners or the children of foreigners, they know the outrage would come from the rest of the world and they would have acted accordingly. So we don't get the same, you know, type
Yeah.
of protection
Yeah.
in our own country,
Yeah.
because the rest of the world is going to say, what about foreigners? That's
I've-
why we're here.
I've said this before. I think that what we are seeing with your movement is the natural consequence of a government that is unresponsive to the problems of its
Absolutely.
people.
Absolutely.
And if the publicly elected governing body, like the people that have been put there to serve as
Yeah.
public servants,
Yeah.
aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, this is what comes out.
Absolutely.
What I have been impressed by is how peaceful it has actually been. In a country like ours that has the murder rates of a war zone, right? And I'm not saying that there haven't
with
been some,
anger.
and I'm not saying that there hasn't been some isolated incidents, right? I know that there have been some people who have been chased away that have got papers. I know that there have been some people pulled out of their houses. I saw something about that online recently of a news story. I understand that, but for the most part, the fact that the mob, which generally once it's been set up
Yeah,
and is
yeah,
rolling,
yeah.
it's very hard to control,
Yeah,
has
definitely.
been so peaceful. I think it's been, we were expecting like Durban July riots, most South Africans, I think, and it's actually been relatively peaceful considering. What do you attribute that to?
Look, I think we've spent enough time with the people to know that things were going to get out of hand and quickly. Trust me, I think a lot of people don't realize how much our movement has contained the anger of the people.
I can imagine.
And people take that for granted.
Yeah.
Like we just woke up in the morning and everyone is just peaceful. First of all, it started with people being scared to express just how angry they are.
Yeah, because you get labeled
You know,
xenophobic.
yes.
Yeah.
That's been the natural
Yeah.
thing. But within communities, communities have been fed up.
Sure.
And
For a
that
long
has been
time.
my fear, that once it topples over,
Yeah.
people are going to start dying, and nobody's going to be able to stop this thing.
Yeah.
So we've managed to teach people of their rights more than anything, and remind them of their power. I think that's the most powerful thing that our government hasn't been able to do. Our government has disempowered South Africans, truly.
I hear you.
And to remind them that, listen, you have the power in you to say,
Yeah.
we've never been consulted when it comes to ZDPs. We've never been consulted when it comes to refugees being in our communities. We've never been consulted with giving foreign nationals the right to come open spaza shops.
Yeah.
That is where your power is as communities.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to communicate your power through violence, because we come from a violent background.
Sure.
So violence is a natural thing, because we've never really rid ourselves of it, and people
Sure.
don't understand why there's so much crime. because there's so much violence. There's been so much violence in this country from way back.
Yeah.
You know, even when people protest, remember, the government has taught them that for us to hear you, go in the street and burn tires. It's the government's fault. I continue to say this.
And so I'm so impressed by that power under control.
Yeah.
You've maybe perhaps shown them their power, but it's been
Yes.
a power that's been held under control. It's
Yes.
meekness. That's a
Yes.
pretty important Christian principle to have.
Yes.
Is knowing this, you have
You
this
know
power.
why? It's not that difficult, really. South Africans are kind people.
Yes.
And I think Ubuntu is a very important principle to
I hear
us.
you.
People don't understand that the reason we have allowed this to go on for so long is because of that kindness exists. It's in us. It's not something that we have to import from somewhere to pretend that we have. But
hear you.
when kindness is
Yeah.
overused
Yeah.
and people feel mistreated in their own country,
Yeah.
that kindness slowly dies out.
Yeah.
So we have to try and balance between remember that kindness, don't let it go anywhere,
Yeah.
but also you are just as important as a foreigner in your own country, and don't let anyone take that away from you. The government is the problem. That's why I think we
hear you.
continuously say that
Yeah.
the government is the problem.
Sure.
The unfortunate part, though, is that when South Africans wake up in the morning, they don't see government, they see foreigners.
Yes.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
When they go and they're on social media and they're saying, you know, foreign nationals who are in the country legally must go. The people who respond and tell them we're not going anywhere, you won't do anything to us, are not the government. That's where the problem is.
Trevor Noah is a very liberal, call him a clown, an entertainer perhaps. He said something that I thought was wise the other
Profound.
day.
Yeah, I heard him.
And I actually took note of it because I don't often hear him say something that's profound. He said, it is easy to feed the poor dude on the street when your own fridge is full.
Yeah.
When your fridge is empty, it's a lot harder. And I think it is governments failing that we're here after 30 years, that not even the border was standing, right?
Yeah.
The fact that they haven't had a border for the last 30 years is a problem. But our economy is stalled. We need to have at least 3 or 4% to have any kind of dent in the unemployment rate that we have, which is insane. I think it's like 43% on a broad basis.
Yeah.
And we're at like 1%. So there is no hope for this future. There is no hope for more
Yeah.
jobs coming. And then what's the natural response to that going to be? It has to be, we've got a problem. And then the focus lands on the immigrant who is taking the job and perhaps does bring some crime and is opening a spaza shop. Very, very organized. The Chinese,
It's
the
a
Pakistanis,
network.
the Somalis come in.
It's a criminal net. I don't want it to.
Skirting the
No,
law.
I don't want us to sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
The spaza shop business has become a criminal
I
network.
agree with
it's
you.
no longer a normal business.
I agree with
because
you.
if you're killing South Africans who are
Yeah.
opening spaza shops because you don't want them to open spaza shops where the areas you think
Yeah.
belong to you, your territory,
Yeah.
that is a crime
gangsterism.
network. It's gangsterism.
Yeah.
It's not migrants who are poor running away from their conditions in Somalia and Ethiopia and Pakistani
Well
and Bangladesh.
established, big corporations. with
Very
black
well
networks.
established. And all of these people know each other.
Yeah.
They have networks. And the biggest problem of this all is the money network.
Yeah.
Where is the money that they are getting from these spaza shops? Because it's
Yes.
not going to SARS.
Yes.
It's not coming back to our economy.
Yes.
On top of that,
Yeah.
the goods coming from the ports, it's a network from outside of South Africa.
Yeah.
It's not a network in South Africa.
And it doesn't benefit
so
us either.
The people keep making this thing look like it's all glossy. You know, like, oh, it's poor migrants
Yeah.
coming in because they're poor, they're refugees and asylum seekers, and oh, they need to survive.
Yeah.
Why would we have more foreigners going to Home Affairs litigating the department to stay in South Africa and continue getting more rights than migrants actually should if they don't know what they're doing? They know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, you know exactly what they're doing because now they've started going to try and get voted for in communities.
Okay.
And starting their own political parties, etc.,
Okay.
etc. There was even a video of a member in parliament. I think I'll find that video. I'll try and find it for you. Who was saying that the Jews are coming here in numbers, so therefore we need to make sure that we bring in more Pakistanis from Pakistan to come to South Africa.
I'd rather just have South Africans.
That is exactly my point. You know, people are saying Jacinta is funded by Israel. I'm like, do you guys not hear what I'm saying? I don't care about foreigners coming from Israel, from Pakistan, from...
As long as they have their paperwork.
even besides getting paperwork, because that's another element I want to go into. I care about South Africans right now.
And I agree with you. I don't think that it's unfair to say I'm for my family first.
Yes.
I'm not unkind if I put a lock on my gate
Not
and
at
don't let
all.
strangers in.
Not at
and
all.
it's hard to say, we can all come in and share of our infrastructure when our infrastructure is failing and
It's
cannot
not
deliver
growing.
services to its own people.
Exactly.
And our president has stood up State of the Nation and said, all are welcome. We won't send anybody away. Please all come and use our infrastructure. And then South Africans are saying, hey, I can't get
What
services.
infrastructure are you wanting us to share with people in the first place?
Okay, so but then answer me this. It feels like once we have chased all of these immigrants away, say they're gone tomorrow, that it will not have fixed the underlying problem that is government failing.
But you see, that's where I feel a lot of people are wrong.
Okay?
The issue may be about migrants, but it's far bigger than that. It's about fighting a system,
Okay.
which is a government system.
Okay.
And once people are able to stand up to their government and remove that system completely,
Okay.
it ushers in new opportunities for new governance and a new system to take over the country.
Is there a further larger revolution on the horizon then?
The revolution has already started.
And what does
The
it
minute
look like?
South Africans are not sitting on their phones
Yeah.
and they are on the streets demanding,
Yes.
trust me, it means this country will never go down.
Okay, so then that scares me a little bit, and I'll tell you why. I see the immigrant being made scapegoat, rightfully so. There's criminal elements, there's jobs being taken. I'm not disputing that, and I agree with you that they need to go. We need law and order. Okay, once they go, our economy's still stalled. Right? There may be some more job openings, but the economy's still stalled. We still don't have the infrastructure. We've still got crime. Who's the next target?
But you see, that's where the problem is.
But who's the next to blame?
There's
is my
no
question.
target here. The issue is with government. The issue is with the system.
But if we're saying
the
it's with
system
government-
is allowing for migrants
Yeah.
to currently clog the system so that South Africa does not grow,
I hear you.
then the problem is not only the migrants, it's the system. So
I
when
hear
we
you.
fight the current system,
Yeah.
we remove the problem, which is the migrants that are not allowing us to fight the government. I said this in one of the interviews. Let me explain to you how.
Okay.
Let's talk about capitalism, for example,
Yes.
which is obviously we're in a mixed economy right now. Now, capitalism is the one system that has led us to come here where we are today, where we have millions of migrants that are unaccounted for because of cheap labor, right?
Yeah.
With cheap labor comes how many other problems? Obviously, South Africans not working, the rich becoming richer, poor becoming poorer, poorer people become criminals because they need to survive. When they need to survive, now they're going to end up fighting the rich. Obviously, that's a system. That's how it works. It's like a ripple effect.
Yes.
Now, if we're saying to the poor people, you have an opportunity to change the system.
Yes.
You can change your government.
I hear
And
you.
by changing your government,
Yeah.
it means dismantling all of these things at
Is-
the same time.
is
Because
the-
remember, let me give you an example. When we say that there's a lot of crime, migrants, whatever, right? What happens? There's more police visibility. When there's more police visibility, it's not just to fight migrants. When the police are there, they're not going to say, oh, no, I'm just chasing migrants down the streets. I'm going to ignore you while you rob a store. It's not going to work that way. Even those who are committing crimes, there's more police visibility for all crimes throughout, which is something we've never seen happening in the country
And
before.
I'm for more policing. That's
Yeah.
great. But come back to the idea of we've put a target on the immigrant. That's the problem that we have within the system. And we're saying there's this bigger systematic problem that we have to take on. What stops us from then saying, you know what the next problem is?
We're not
It's
putting
white
a
capital.
no.
They need to go next.
There's always been a target on white capital.
So
That's the
what I'm
thing.
saying. So
That's
now-
why the EFF
So now
is
we've
here today.
organized and we're seeing movement, we're seeing our power, and we're rallying behind the revolution. And first we're saying immigrants out. What's to stop the next target? Because we need a target. There always has to be someone to blame.
No, you see, that's where you and I will disagree.
I'm not
There's no
disagreeing, I'm asking the
target.
question.
The target is government. I repeat
but
that again.
But it's pointed at immigrants.
No, the target is government for allowing the issue of illegal immigrants to thrive in the country. The target is government for not enforcing their own laws. The target is government
But you're not
for...
marching on Parliament to take on Parliament.
No, we are.
You're chasing immigrants away.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
No. That's not true. All our marches went to either a government building or a police station.
Yes.
Ours ended at the police
Sure.
station, Point Road. You know
Yes.
why? Because Point Road is one of those places with organized crime where
Yeah.
all of these Nigerians and all of these people are committing crimes.
Yeah.
There was one that went straight to the union buildings, which was not the first time we went to the union buildings, by the way. And all the other provinces went to a government building.
And so you're going to the building.
Yes, and
you're
we're
saying,
handing over memorandum to government and demanding answers from government. And these memorandums that we're handing over, by the way, are listing the same laws that we have in the country that the government is meant to be enforcing. It's not sitting there and saying, we're going to tell you there's 2 million migrants, remove them. What? No, we're saying there are laws that you wrote down.
Yes.
And you said, in order for me to hire a foreigner, for example, I need to follow this process. Currently, you're the same government that's not following that process.
So the
We're
immigrant
not
gets
saying,
kicked out. The immigrant's being removed.
listen, I don't want you to, you see, this is why I want to keep shifting the goalposts to government. Because we're talking about the law here, we're not talking about the immigrants.
How does the government get kept to account?
That's what we're doing right now. I've
Okay.
been to Parliament personally to make them account for them not enforcing their own laws. I've met with different ministers, education, the police minister, etc., because what we are referring to, I'm going to say again, is not the immigrant. It is the laws of the country that don't allow the immigrant to be here.
Yeah.
Now the clash comes when the immigrants themselves, this is where I want people to be honest with themselves about the immigrants in this country. Immigrants in this country have been protected for a long time. That they've gotten entitled,
Sure.
they've gotten arrogant, and they've gotten very brave, right?
Sure. I saw some Malawians on the camera saying, you guys can come and
you
we'll
are
sort it out."
lazy, you are this and that. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
So you can't expect that to not play a factor in people being angry.
Sure.
Because like I say, we are fighting our government. Our marches are to our government. We're not going to the drive-in where the Malawians are and saying remove. If we wanted to do that, trust me, we would have done that.
We are seeing some people being grabbed and chased away and papers checked.
Well,
That's been on the
let me tell you,
commentaries,
I
right?
don't want to account for things that other people are doing. That's not on us.
Okay.
Because we've never even preached that.
Okay.
I'm going to account for what we say and what we do. So, like I said, communities are angry. Remember, I said this from the beginning, from the onset.
Yeah.
And that is because of government's failures. But I still maintain we must never take away from the role that the immigrants themselves have played. Because if you're in a foreign country
Yeah.
and you start telling the natives of that country you're not going anywhere, Mandela said, this is our country,
Yeah.
we are going to... You can't pretend like those people are innocent. And that's
Yeah.
the problem
No,
I have with South
I hear
Africa. A lot of people are acting like migrants are just these, all of them. And you know, one thing you must have noted, I don't know if you noted this, and it worries me that our government didn't find a problem with that. So many of them were being interviewed. Oh, life is not the same in South Africa. There are no jobs, blah, blah, blah. There are no jobs. Or almost all of them are complaining that there are no jobs in South Africa. So what exactly were they doing in the country? How were they surviving? Why are people not asking themselves those questions? Why are they not asking them that question?
The flip side is that you have South Africans complaining that all the jobs are going to immigrants.
No. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying to you, South Africans don't have jobs, right? Statistically, that's been
Sure, massive
proven, blah, blah,
unemployment.
blah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But I'm saying we've got people coming from Malawi, Mozambique,
Yes.
Zimbabwe, Nigeria, all of
Yes.
this, coming to our TVs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing this even on Sigzoktola that I was talking about when they ask Nigerians, why are you selling drugs? Because there are no opportunities. So what are you doing in the country?
I think
How are you
coming for
surviving?
opportunities. There definitely are loads of immigrants that do
Exact,
have
but listen to what I'm
jobs.
saying. They're saying they don't have opportunities. There are no jobs.
Yeah. No,
So
they
what
definitely are.
are they doing in the country? How are they surviving?
No, they
What
are here,
means
they
do they
are
have to
working.
survive?
And
No, some of them are not surviving
how
because
do you
of
think they're
working.
surviving? They're just committing crime.
Crime.
Sure, I don't think that you can say it's the
I'm not
vast
saying
majority.
all of them.
immigrants.
That's not what I'm saying.
I would say it's not the majority.
I'm not saying it's majority, but
Yeah.
I'm saying when you're on TV and you're saying yourself that there are no opportunities in South Africa, there's no means to survive.
Yeah.
Why is nobody asking, so how were you surviving in South Africa? Nobody's been asking that question. That's
Fair
my
enough.
question.
Yeah, that's a fair question. Tell me, what do you say to the South African or to the immigrant when the South African says, you're taking my job? Why do you think the immigrant gets the job?
Look, I think there's a lot of reasons. I'll start on the lower scale of things, which is something that we know factually.
Okay.
There's a minimum wage in the country. We know that. There's a lot of unions that have caused problems for people, especially employers who get tired of explaining themselves to unions because South African employers have protection when they're under unions, and unions
Employees have protection.
Employees, yes. And then
so our labor law is restrictive.
yes, so our labor
Makes it hard
laws
to hire.
make it very hard to treat employees in a certain way.
Yeah.
So employers will obviously naturally take advantage of an opportunity where they can avoid dealing with labor unions and dealing with the minimum wage and paying as little as they can. I mean, they
How often do you think that really happens? I've heard that is like
a lot.
the main
There's an entire TV show on it as well, on TV,
So when I
where
look
they
at the
find
industry-
hundreds and hundreds of people working in factories, but those are lower level, like I said,
that's what I
lower
think.
level entry jobs.
I
That's
can
what I'm
understand
trying to
that,
explain.
because any company that's registered with SARS has to account for their salaries to be expensed, needs to be able to show paperwork.
But they do hire some South Africans, remember. So they do that, and then they manipulate the paperwork.
I think it's a tough
somehow.
argument to say that everybody's skirting that kind of law. SARS is one of the few institutions that does work in this
our
country.
conversation in general needs to be cognizant of the fact that we're not talking about everyone.
Sure.
Even when I talk about
Yeah.
committing crime, I'm not talking about every migrant committing crimes. I'm just talking about things that we have seen
And they are seeing,
as
yeah.
perpetuating the problem and
sure.
causing more problems.
For sure.
Of course, I know a lot of people will ask for statistics. There are no statistics because nobody's been doing research on the issue. So I don't understand these people that want statistics. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Like, you don't go out and find statistics. Where do you think you're going to get statistics of how many people are working in factories, whatever. But like I said, there's an entire TV show where every week there's about 300, 400 people being removed from a single factory.
I look at the private homes.
Yeah.
And I look at the gardeners and the home cleaners, very often seem to be Zimbabweans, Malawians. And when I ask them, are you being paid less? Very seldom they're being paid less. They're saying we show up when we need to show up, and we have the right attitude. The South Africans are entitled.
That's not true.
I'll tell you why I think it is. Give me a second. I think that if you travel thousands of kilometers to come and find work,
That's the only thing
you're coming to work.
You see, that's what I
think
say
if you
as
don't
well.
have a SASSA grant to rest on.
That's what I say as well.
And I think that there may still be an underlying animosity and hate, especially towards white people, as being the problem, that causes the South African to
The
say,
friction,
I definitely don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
That the Malawian doesn't have.
Yeah, you see, I've termed this way. It's so unfortunate. I don't think South Africa really healed from apartheid. We pretend as if we've gone through it, but we really haven't. You know, because sometimes, as Black people, we have preconceived ideas of what a white person is saying to me. Sometimes it's not what they're saying, but sometimes it is what they're saying. You know what I mean? And some white people have never really honestly moved from their thoughts and their convictions that they had back then. So that's where the problem is. I always say the immigrants have replaced South Africans as the modern day slaves. Whether they want to agree with that or not is the reality. Because from what you're saying, with the issue of
I would
help,
push back on that idea.
no, you can. You can. Everyone does.
I don't think immigrants are, for the most part. There will be businesses who do pay less and take advantage of being able to skirt labor law. I get that. I don't think that it's majority of the companies, and then I think majority of the private families that hire help, they want someone who doesn't have an underlying level of animosity and is then paid the same for that.
So let me correct you where I feel like you're wrong. That's where I was going, because remember, even during apartheid, the people that are working in homes were Black people.
Sure.
And my grandmother was one of them.
Sure.
And they were treated very well, contrary to popular belief by some people. So the home issue for me is not really about the animosity that you're speaking about. Because, like I said, the garden boys, the maids, the domestics were South Africans. Cool. Even during that time of serious animosity where people were dying and being killed, etc., right? But this is why I want to move to modern day slavery. It's exactly what you mentioned, that Malawians, Zimbabweans, etc. First of all, their living conditions are not that of a family setup, right? So it's the same with Somalis, Ethiopians who are in these tuck shops. They live in those tuck shops. They breathe in those, they bath inside, they eat inside, right? unlike South Africans who, when I work, I have to go back home to provide for this particular family.
Yes.
And we have a certain life that we live.
Yeah.
Right?
Got a basic that you need.
Yes. So that's why you'll see all these hijacked buildings where there's 4 families living in a 2-bedroom house. Because we don't care what conditions we live in.
Yeah.
As long as we can take money back home.
Yes.
Which is why I call it modern day slavery. So you can live in the worst conditions, be treated in the worst way, but because you need this money, you won't even complain even if you work until 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
It's the same with these tuck shops, because remember, back in our days, as a culture, even in our African families, there was a time where you had to be home. All of us. You had to be home. That was a family thing. At home, get at a certain time. Some families would pray, some wouldn't pray. That was the culture. Now, these shops are open until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Boys are hanging out in those shops. That's where the drugs come in. That's where the alcohol comes in. That's where a lot of things that are not our norms have changed.
Say we
and
send
that's the
immigrants
problem.
home now. Do you think that there is perhaps something to be said for us changing labor law, cutting away minimum wage, which is a synthetic flaw that is not necessarily free market and is actually can be detrimental and a down current on unemployment? Is there not work that we can be doing within our system itself to change employment for people, kickstart businesses? Right? Is there any part of your mind that says, we're going to get rid of the cancer, the wound, scrub it out, but what can we do to really grow the body again?
I don't think there's any need to get rid of the minimum wage.
Okay.
I think the biggest problem that we must look at is these many taxes that we're paying. Because, businesses are paying ridiculous amounts of tax for survival, and sometimes we don't even know where SARS takes this money, Those are things that we should be worried about. Minimum wages for survival of a worker, and they deserve that money. They worked for it, An employer can't be cutting money that I worked for. But as well, the employer can't be paying a ridiculous amount of money to SARS to maintain the business. I think we don't really pay much attention to SARS. And I think that's where most of our problems could possibly be solved.
I agree with you big time there. I'll 100% back that with you on that side. Tell me, you mentioned going to Parliament in the past. There was a meeting with the President and some of your colleagues. Yeah. You didn't get an invite to the meeting. No. What happened? Why?
I don't know. I don't even want to delve much into that, because sometimes I know politics is like a dirty game. Sometimes they could be doing this for their own reasons to try and feed into some narrative.
Are they trying to create a split?
I think, from what I've noted and what I've listened to them when they speak, they say a lot of things about, some of these organizations are pushing political agenda, whatever. So I do feel like they're trying to imply that maybe like this whole... I've noted a lot of fear around Jacob Zuma, and I have a Zuma surname. We're not related to Jacob Zuma. But for some odd reason, I think this is the only surname in the world where you can have the same... they can be a Smith in South Africa, they can be a Smith in America. But nobody says, oh, you're a Smith. Are you related to Jacob Zuma? Everywhere I go, is Jacob Zuma your father? I've only had the Zuma surname for a couple of years, but my God, it carries a lot of, it's scary. It's got a lot of negative undertones to it and a lot of, so I'm just like a Zuma who's married to my husband, who's not a Zuma, who's related to Jacob Zuma, but somehow anything that you say is already attributed to Jacob. You can't, we've spoken to a lot of political parties. Almost all of them. ANC was the first political party, first one. We approached to join our marches.
Who has joined?
They taught, we've had it, I'll tell you now. So when we approached the ANC, they rejected us completely, right? And we've met with a lot of political parties.
Underestimated you.
Yes, they did, unfortunately for them. So IFP, we've met with PA, we've met with the DA, we've met with a lot of political parties. Some of them we had to explain who we are, like the DA. They don't get what we're doing, but still we met them because we're trying to make them understand what we're doing. So the minute I met with the MK, or when I spoke at the MK extended an invite to say, come and, we've got a march against this. We know how you guys talk about service delivery. Come and speak. And we made this public. We published the letters to say, okay, the MK is inviting us. I went there, I spoke to the crowd. My God, it was a big thing, But every time, I went to an Action SA event, it was a big, but not as big as when I was with the MK. So I just sit there now, and I really feel like the ANC fears Jacob Zuma terribly.
Do you think that the politician, who has climbed in? Who has supported you guys? Who are you seeing there?
Well, we've got a lot of support from a lot of organizations, political parties.
I'm seeing Patriotic Alliance at the marches. Top councillors.
No, Action SA used to be Patriotic Alliance. Gaten did a 360 on us now and said we're going to be
Action
balanced.
SA that I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's Action SA in the green. It's definitely Action SA. Patriotic Alliance did a 360
So tell me what
on
Action
us.
SA is.
Well, Action SA for us, I think they've spoken a lot of sense around the issue. You know, they've been, I mean, we've seen Herman Mashaba not only just speaking about it, he was a mayor of Johannesburg for a while.
Is it politics or are they believers? Like, are they running the numbers for
like,
local election
let me explain. You know, with Action SA, genuinely, I know this is their standpoint because when Herman Mashaba was mayor of Johannesburg, he did enforce a lot of change that was speaking to the issue of hijacked buildings. Even now in Tshwane, Dr. Nasipi Moya, it's the same thing. You know, they're really showing that their IFP has been consistently on this issue, even from the time of Dr. Mangosuthu Buthelezi. You know, he was the Minister of Home Affairs at one point, and he said, you know what, we need to control this issue, you know. It's even in their manifesto. So it's not just
politics, there's actually...
For some of them, it's not politics. I mean, we're not children. We're aware of those who will take chances, etc., etc. But, I mean, we know where we stand on this issue. And we even told them, even with the IFP, Action SA, MK, whoever says that they are with us, we tell them, even when you come into power, we're not going to not hold you accountable just because we align on this issue. This is exactly when we will hold you accountable. Because you can't walk with the people and say that you're going to enforce change. And then when you're inside, you turn around and not do it. You know, so that's our point. That's our existence. They know this. They know every time we meet them, we say, we are going to be like your soundboard. Every time you move from what you've promised the people, we'll take you back.
I know Herman, Action SA, had kind of punted you as a political runner for...
the mayor of Eteguni.
And you had said no in December.
By
May, you said there are a whole bunch of parties that are starting to approach.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Have you got any kind of ideas towards politics at this stage?
No.
Why not?
I think, you know, I said this before, like, I'm trying to fight the system, as I've been saying. I don't think I'll win the fight if I'm in the system.
Okay.
You know?
I can
For me,
that.
I think it's important to have people who are not, who can look outside without being inside.
Yeah.
You know?
That's fair.
Because I know some of the people are willing to listen
Yeah.
and reflect on the decisions that they're making,
Yeah.
you know, by listening to what the people say. Some are just not there.
I don't
you
disagree
know?
with your decision there. I think it's a good strategic move.
Yeah.
You are almost like this independent then. You're not climbing into politics, but you were invited 2023 to the International Visitors Leadership
IVLP.
Program hosted by the US.
Yes.
Tell me about that, because the national question is going to be, you know, are you a controlled plant put in there by the states to try and bring some, you know, destabilize, because there is this animosity between the states and SA at the moment.
Yeah.
Anything to that, or was that silly?
That was 2023, by the way, when I went there. There was no Trump at the time.
But
it was
still
actually,
good to put people in place.
No. I think if you do a bit of research in the IVLP program, even the Nelson Mandela Washington Fellowship Program, so many people who are in leadership today went through those programs. A whole lot of people. And none of them have assumed the stand that I have, actually. Some of them have taken their own direction. And funny enough, I was laughing at the fact that they're claiming that when we went there, we went to learn about, I don't even know what they're saying. But when we went there, funny enough, to the program, we spent 3 weeks learning about disinformation and misinformation. And we went to radio stations, we went to the state departments, a number of them.
But definitely not a controlled asset.
Went to, you know, I'm getting there. I'm going to tell you why it's so funny that people say it's a plant.
Yeah.
And a number of organizations, and none of them were there to shape our thinking or whatever. Because funny enough, at the time, we were questioning a lot of what America's doing. You know, we even went to train about AI, and they told us, like, it's going to get bad. Like, AI is going to get really bad. Prepare yourselves, etc., etc. Now, the funny part about me being planted is that when we went to that leadership program, it was only African countries. So there's a representative from every single African country. So I'm trying to figure out in their head the dynamics of me being trained to be a plant.
So you would say they weren't
So
really
was
Americans
I?
that were-
There was never a time where there was an American, a single American.
Okay.
All of us were from different
I
African
hear you.
countries
That's fair.
to learn
Interesting.
and share our inputs on what's
good.
going on in our country. I mean, I got to learn about the media houses in other African countries. This is what we do. Nigeria. That's why even today, some of them have reached out to me to say, hey, this is what's going on in South Africa. Is it true? I mean, there's another one of our colleagues we went to at the time was from Burkina Faso, who I actually learned a lot about Burkina Faso outside of what's in the media from him. And we share, listen, this is what's really going on, this is what's not real, etc. And that is ideally what the program is about. I don't think America would take me to a program with other Africans so that they can come back and say other Africans must not be in South Africa as they claim.
Fair enough.
You know, it doesn't
Not
even
very
make
effective training.
any sense because
I hear
the
that.
people that I was with at that training, I can even call one of them here. We still have a group where we're all in that group together. We can call them today
Good for
and ask
international
them.
relations, not
yes,
great for being
yes,
an American
and
plant.
ask them, guys, was there ever a time where Jacinta was alone with whoever it is that she was alone with? Or, because that thing was tight. I still have the schedule today. We never had a chance to breathe, and at the time there was still like the whole thing of COVID. In the morning you had to test for COVID. In the afternoon test for COVID. There was a time where, you know, we were moving. We moved from different states. Traveling alone was like a headache. You move from one state to another state. Some days you just want to rest, but you don't because you've got to go to another studio, another station, and learn another culture, another language, etc., etc.
So work with me here. We've got limited time left. I want to get through 3 more points.
Sure.
My last kind of challenging question for you.
Yeah.
I understand the line that says this is a grassroots movement, grassroots funding. Backer Buddy's got like 13K rands last time I checked. And then it's supposed to be organic. And yet I look at how it's played out and it looks so organized. And it is so expensive to do something like this. Flights, accommodation, etc., etc. There have been these comments, you've answered a couple of times saying, are you Israeli funded? And you say definitely not. But I know of guys like, you know, a Martin Marshall, who is a Jewish dude, born in Durban, living in Sydney, made his cash in gaming and gambling, is the largest single donor to Action SA, gave him about 5 bar, was the largest donor to all South African parties in between 21 and 23. I think he was like 16% of all contributions. Is there nothing like that behind the strings? Are you saying we're completely grassroots, completely organic? There is nobody behind us playing puppet master and pulling the strings here?
Like it. You know, I wish, I say this a lot, I wish someone would fund us.
Okay.
Then you would really know what a protest is.
Okay.
First of all, there's this misconception that somehow I was this poor, struggling person who couldn't afford toilet paper before she started doing this.
Okay.
I'm not doing this out of poverty. All my kids are in private school. I don't use public health care. I don't. That's the life I lived even before starting March and March.
Sure.
And it's not going to change because now I'm doing March and March and what.
Yeah.
The reason I relate to everything that's going on is because, like I said, of my upbringing.
Yes.
And the fact that I still have a home by my show where I'm still normal. You know what I mean?
And we love South Africa.
Life might have changed for me, but I wanted to change for as many people that it can change.
I hear you.
It's not just about me.
Yeah.
You know, this thing is far bigger than me. You know, if you are a person that can only think about yourself and within yourself, you never grow as a person. And having been on radio taught me how many problems people have.
Sure.
Outside of the things that I know or understand, you know, people have serious problems out there.
Yeah.
Now, when they say there's flights and I've booked my own flights, I've booked my own accommodation. My husband has been able to take care of me and everyone because it's a flight. You know, I mean, I was traveling even before doing March and March. I was proposed to in France. You know what I mean? It's not like
Your first time flying. I get you.
you know, I got excited because Jesus Christ is March and March, now I can fly. I was traveling with my own money. I've been to several countries with my husband, just traveling, having fun. You know what I mean? And we wanted that for ourselves to say, you know what, we want people to travel to life and feel safe.
So completely distancing ourselves from any kind of accusations
I'm just going to explain to
Okay.
you. When people say that, where do you get the funding from? I ask myself, funding, what funding do people think we need?
Okay.
Exactly.
That's
Do
cool.
we need transport, people come for themselves.
So organic,
People
grassroots.
come for themselves.
I hear you.
People have buy their
Yeah.
own T-shirts when they need T-shirts. There's no food that's being provided. There's no
me
anything
what's-
that's being provided. But we do have people that say, for example, when we had a stage now at the protest that we just had, that stage was massive. We're never going to afford that, you know. But there's business people who say, listen, I don't want anyone to know, but I'm going to pay for the stage.
Okay.
And we don't ask for that money for ourselves because we know they are also afraid that the minute they deposit money to us, when they check our records, they're going to say, oh, this one was funding the money, so therefore the money's good. So we say, you know what, pay for the stage,
Okay.
pay for the water, give us the water. That's all we want.
Limited and to specific.
Trust me,
expenses.
listen to what I'm saying. You know, if we had funding,
Yeah.
sure, South Africa would not move for
Do you
days.
think you'd be more effective in what you're?
Beyond effective.
Okay, so tell me, what does the plan
Beyond.
look like next? Where are we going from here?
If I don't know who Martin, whoever you just mentioned is, but if we can get him to sponsor me with just like that 2-bar, trust and believe me, the government will respond to what the people want. Because I think that the problem here is that we've got a government that doesn't respond to poor people. They want poor people to act outside of character so that they can change from looking at the concern to focusing on what they're doing.
Yeah.
They've mastered that.
Sure.
So they no longer talk about immigration crisis.
Yeah.
They talk about violence. Because they've been the one talking about violence. We've never mentioned violence, by the way. Not once.
Okay.
So now that's what the government wants to achieve.
Yeah.
They want to shift the focus from the immigration crisis to being about South Africa being violent. And that, I say this even now, you might not understand this, but if that was a bunch of white people marching the streets the other day, today the government would have come up with a comprehensive plan on immigration. And you know I'm not lying. You know I'm not lying.
I don't know.
You know I'm not lying. If that was a bunch of white people there, trust and believe me, the story would have been different today. Cyril Ramaphosa ran to America when a few white people from AfriForum said, there's a white genocide in the country. He responded like this. He jumped. He sent ministers and whatever. What is he doing now? Responding to violence. A violence that we've never had, by the way. He's not responding to the immigration crisis. I'm still saying, they've never given us a solution to the immigration crisis until now.
So you're a benevolent dictator of the country. You don't have to put anything through Parliament. What you say goes. What is your
Who, me?
solution? What's your 3-step plan in terms of how we work this
Simple,
out?
simple. First of all, secure the border. We don't have a border. That's all we're asking for. Our border is operational at 25%. This is something we were told by border management. 25%, which means we don't have control of 75% of what's coming in and out of this country. That is ridiculous. And no country can survive that way.
Sure. I
First
agree.
of all, secure the border.
Yeah.
Second of all, now you've got this problem of people that are already in the country. You can only solve that by talking to the countries that these people belong to.
Sure.
Fix your diplomatic relationships with these other countries so they can come and collect their people peacefully without fights. Because nobody who's in the country legally should be here anyways. Thirdly, fix your legislation so that it doesn't allow for a time where this must ever happen again. Those are the 3 simple, fast solutions.
I like it. I agree with it. Thank you for the chat. It's been awesome to hear from you and hear
Yeah.
your heart, hear where you came from and where you
Thank you.
plan on going. All the best with what is ahead of
Yeah.
you for this movement.
I'm tired. I just hope it ends quickly. You know, if the government can say tomorrow we're doing those 3 things,
Yeah.
I can go back to sleeping peacefully and just like never be seen in the media again. I'm so tired of people's opinions, people's dictations, people's assumptions and whatever. I can probably even go back to radio, you know, and just
well done for what you have managed
Yeah.
to do to stir up the people, to have impact and influence. Well done
Yeah.
on keeping it peaceful and yet still having your say. You playing a big game, and it's
Yeah.
been cool to watch. And I wish you all the best of luck for your future.
Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Cheers, man.
So, yeah.